Okay, so I'm just gonna show the basic things that I know about RenderDoc, which is not that much, but it's enough to get started. So you open it up, you've got this launch application. So I'm gonna be debugging this hacky little thing I've got going. So one thing to keep in mind is that it has your executable path, but then it's gonna get a working directory. You just need to make sure, like, because your code's gonna load shaders and stuff, you need to make sure your working directory works for where your code is gonna try to look for shader files and stuff. So for me, I know where it is. So you go ahead and click launch. It's going to bring up your application. So this is my project that I'm working on right now. It has like, oh, it's using IMGUI and it has a main window, but then it has a window within it. And so I can go over here and I hit cube. So now I have a cube there. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit F12 to take a capture, and you can kind of see it right here. It tells you you made one capture, and it captured frame number 1327. All right, so I got a capture. I can go ahead and exit that. It does some loading and analysis. I think so. There's two things. There's the event browser, and so these are, events that occurred. And you can, for example, you can see I've got two passes. The one I'm kind of interested here is one that has a target in depth, and I just know that that's the one I'm interested in because I know I set up that target and that depth buffer. And you can drop that down, and so it'll have your clear render target, clear depth stencil, and then draw indexed. And you should be able to trace these calls to your code. So, like more specifically, see here the draw indexed. If you go down here into the API inspector, you can see that where it's calling like set shader, set input layout, set constant buffers, like that should all pretty much map to your code. So for example, please ignore my hacky code here. Like, you know, I have yes set constant buffers. I have clear render target view. I have map and unmap, and you can see that all here. And so you you should be able to step through the event browser and your API inspector and kind of trace you should be able to trace that to where your code is. There's nothing mysterious. If it's here, then you probably have it in your code somewhere. Um, the other interesting thing besides that is the pipeline state. So this one shows you your whole pipeline. So you have your input assembler, and here it's like telling you like you have some buffers. Slot 0, when you hover here, slot 0, it's showing you like, oh, that's your position buffer. You've got your vertex shader. You can see here in my vertex shader, I've got two constant buffers. And then you've got rasterizer, which I've never really looked at, but then there's the pixel shader. And in my pixel shader for this program, I'm not really doing anything. Um, so some other cool things, if you go to the vertex shader and you see like these are two constant buffers I have, you can actually click right here, and this is going to show you the contents. So you can use this for debugging of, you know, you should be able to take these and do the math with these and figure out if it's what you expect. And here it's showing, like here it's saying column major, so you can see like this is correct from a column-wise layout, but you can see here how it's actually stored in memory. So that's, I don't know, that's interesting to me. Same for here. Um, Another thing you can do, so you can go to the mesh viewer, and this is really cool. So as you click through the event browser, there's, right here, like here, there's no mesh, but once I get to this pass, there is, and especially if you do this draw indexed, like you can see here the geometry of the thing you're trying to render. I was trying to render a cube. And what's really cool is um, you can see your vertex shader input and your vertex shader output. So these are your vertices that you passed in, and this is the output of the vertex shader. So you have four components. This is your W. So it hasn't done it has not done the perspective divide yet. But my main point with this is that you should actually be able to take this vertex, multiply it by your view and your projection, um, and get these values. So that's a good way to debug. And it'd be like, I know what's in what these are, and I know what these are. Can I get these to match up? I use it to like make sure I've got the order of my matrix multiplication correct. Um, let's see. There's other things you can do. Texture viewers, so you can see like this is the texture that I'm rendering into. Um, you can also you should be able to see. Let me take a look here. You should be able to see like the contents of your depth buffer too. Let me let me see. Vertex shader, output merger, got depth, render target. I don't know why this is all red actually. I might have to go figure out what that means. Oh, I'm curious. So what I'm going in my head right now is like I know I have a depth buffer, and I was gonna try to show the view of it, and I'm not seeing that anywhere. So now I'm a bit confused. So I have some debugging to do. Let's see. Clear render target view. Oh, depth stencil view is the 50. Um, so you can click this. So I've gotten to my depth target 49. You can see this view contents. This is what I was trying to get to. And here's the contents of my depth buffer, and it's just gray. It's actually upside down from the final. Let's see if we go and we view our. If we go here to our texture viewer and we see our final output, you can kind of see it's on the bottom left. So then when I'm looking at my depth target, it's up here. So something about the way the pipeline works, it's upside down at some point. Anyway, getting off way on a tangent here from just trying to show you the things you can do. So to recap, you've got your event browser here, which should correlate to your I have a this should correlate to your code in some way. Um, I have my draw indexed call. I have my clear depth stencil, clear render target, so those are all there. But then also beyond that, like when I click this draw index, there's this whole list of API stuff that was called. Um, yeah, there's API stuff for this too, but the draw index is the one where it's interesting. Um, because this should all correlate. So for example, here where I'm doing map on this buffer 54, if we go view what buffer 54 is, I'm gonna try to see if my knowledge is good enough. Buffer number 54, if I go here and I view contents, um, I actually know that this is my camera data. Let's see if there's another way to see that. I'm probably confusing you all at this point. But anyway, this map buffer 54, what I'm trying to say is that correlates to my code. I'm calling map here to add data to my constant buffer for camera data. And so we saw it one way by looking at the pipeline state and going to vertex shader, and oh yeah, here we go, camera data buffer 54. And so we can click go and we can see it here. But there's actually another way where you go over to the API inspector and you see buffer 54, you click on it, and here you can see view contents, and here you're seeing the hex values, and what you can do is down here in this buffer format, you can type float. I just happen to know that this is the layout here. Float 4x4 is obviously your matrix, your four-dimensional matrix, and okay, you can type in your formats here and hit apply, and then it applies it to the buffer contents. And so you're getting the same view as what you had here, just in a different spot, which can be helpful. And this actually helped me one time last quarter or the quarter before that of finding out that some of my data was not 16 byte aligned correctly. So anyway, hopefully this is a useful overview of using RenderDoc. Sorry for a bit of rambliness.